The billionaire who vanished on Flight 73. It begins, as so many mysteries do, with silence. Not the silence of peace, but the silence that follows when hundreds of voices are suddenly cut off. On the morning of September 5th, 1986, Pan Am Flight 73 sat on the scorching tarmac of Karachi, Pakistan. It was supposed to be a routine stopover on its journey from Bombay to New York. But what unfolded that day would become one of the most terrifying hijackings in aviation history. And buried inside that story lies a question that has never been fully answered. Because among the 379 souls on board, there was one man whose disappearance has haunted investigators and journalists for decades. A billionaire investor known for his brilliance, his secrets, and the enemies he kept. And after the hijacking ended, he was simply gone. They called him Raghav Malhotra, a self-made tycoon from India. By the mid-80s, his empire stretched across steel, shipping, and real estate. He was worth hundreds of millions in today's money. But what made Raghav fascinating wasn't just his fortune. It was the way he lived. Private, reclusive, almost mythic. Those who knew him described a man who never trusted banks, who carried briefcases filled with bearer bonds, who believed, perhaps rightly, that money was safest when only he knew where it was. He was on Flight 73 because he preferred to travel quietly, without an entourage. No headlines, no press. Just him, his passport, and a seat in first class. And then, everything unraveled. Midway through boarding, 4 men disguised as airport security stormed the aircraft, guns in hand. For the next 16 hours, passengers endured unspeakable terror as negotiations failed, as fear grew, as time stretched into a nightmare. Survivors recalled the air conditioning shutting down, the suffocating heat, the sound of children crying in the dark. And in that chaos, witnesses say, Raghav Malhotra remained unnervingly calm. One flight attendant later remembered him scribbling notes on the back of a newspaper, notes she never saw again. Another swore she overheard him whispering in Hindi, "If this is the end, my secrets die with me." When Pakistani commandos finally stormed the plane, gunfire ripped through the cabin. Passengers scrambled, some surviving, some not. And in that blur of blood and smoke, Raghav vanished. His name was not on the official list of the dead. His body was never recovered. And yet, he never resurfaced in the world again. Some believe he died anonymously, another nameless casualty of a hijacking that left 20 people dead. Others whisper that he escaped in the confusion, slipping out into Karachi with forged papers and a fortune untraceable by governments or creditors. But there's a third theory, more unsettling than either of the others, that Raghav Malhotra was the target all along. Declassified intelligence reports hint that among the hijackers' demands was a special passenger, a man carrying sensitive financial documents linked to offshore accounts in Zurich and Panama. Was Raghav taken alive, abducted not for politics but for profit? If so, who wanted him? And why has his trail remained cold for nearly 40 years? Journalists who have chased this story describe doors quietly closing, records sealed, families refusing to talk. His business empire was carved up within months, his holdings absorbed by rivals, as if the world was eager to erase him. And yet, fragments remain. A safety deposit box in Geneva, empty just days after the hijacking. A villa in Marbella purchased under an alias, abandoned without explanation. And whispers in financial circles that someone, somewhere, still trades using codes that once belonged to him. What makes the story of Raghav Malhotra so haunting isn't just the mystery of where he went. It's the reminder of how fragile wealth, power, and even identity can be. One moment, you are a billionaire with empires at your command. The next, you are a ghost, vanished into history, leaving only questions behind. Perhaps he died on that plane. Perhaps he walked away from it. Perhaps he was silenced because he knew too much. But in the end, his disappearance is more than a crime story. It's a parable about how even the most visible men can choose to disappear or be disappeared, about how the human need for control collides with the randomness of fate. And maybe that's why his story endures, because deep down it forces us to ask ourselves, if everything we built could vanish in an instant, what would really remain of us.